Greetings to all Southern Cameroonians. This is King H. I'm quite sure every Southern Cameroonian has seen the video of Bass activists questioning Macron. It's quite popular right now. But I don't speak French nor understand French, so I had to wait to get the translated version of what Macron really said. And one thing that actually got my attention was what he said, and it was translated that I put pressure on Paul Biya to deal with the subject of English-speaking area and its opponents. I told him that I did not want to receive him in Lyon until Maurice Kamto was released, and he was released. So the presidency of France, or the president of France, being Maurice Kamto, being Macron, the president of France, being Macron, has the influence, has the power, has the privilege to determine what President Paul Biya does and what any other French African country does in government. In other words, they control, they have influence. France has influence in French Africa. The fact that most French African countries cannot progress is because of the influence France has over French Africa. Now, President Macron made sure that Maurice Kamto should be released. But Maurice Kamto is not the only person, or was not the only person, that has been jailed in Kondengi, or jailed by President Paul Biya when it comes to the English-speaking issue, or when it comes to people opposing President Paul Biya. We have 10 leaders, 10 Anglophone leaders in prison. How come France can use this opportunity, just like they've used the opportunity to release Maurice Kamto, to release our 10 leaders, or to put influence, or to put pressure on Biya to release our 10 leaders and our citizens that are wrongfully jailed because they are Anglophones? He said that he's putting pressure to deal with the subject of English-speaking area. But he's not putting enough pressure, because if he was, many of our leaders and many of our citizens who have been jailed in Kondengi and in other parts of Cameroon because they're Anglophone, then they would have been released, because the President Macron would have put pressure. But President Macron has no interest in doing that, because by him doing that, he's adding his voice to separate English Cameroon from French Cameroon, which is not the interest of France. France doesn't want Southern Cameroon to separate from Property Cameroon, because they will not benefit from it. But because France can benefit from Maurice Kamto, in the situation of Maurice Kamto, and can use that for his advantage to control the situation in Cameroon, he took that advantage. Just like President Macron took advantage when they had the ECOWAS situation, when ECOWAS was trying to have one currency. And when the president of France noticed that if he doesn't take an action, then he'll lose more from the French African nations in West Africa. He'll lose more. So he had to take a bold step to give more opportunities to these French African nations in West Africa, where they accepted those deals. And also doing that, they wanted to control that situation so that they can also have an upper hand in the rest of the West African countries. And guess what? Six of the nations, five being English speaking, and the other French speaking country refused, which is why they couldn't have one ECOWAS currency. There was a disagreement because of France's influence in the French African nations, because of the deals that the president of France gave to those French African nations in West Africa. I'm saying this because France has a great influence in French African nations, and the French African nations cannot grow because of the influence France has. Can't grow. And we Southern Cameroonians do not want to be controlled or be influenced by France because we were never colonized by France. There's no reason for us to suffer in the hands of France hegemony and dictatorship when we're not colonized by them. It is our birthright as Southern Cameroonians to be free from the chokeholds of France. France does not want Southern Cameroon to be free from La Republic of Cameroon because it would not benefit them. And so France, or the president of France, cannot release or support the release of our leaders, our 10 leaders who are in Kondogui. But France will support and spoke openly about releasing Maurice Kamto and even giving President Paul Biya to act, or he's going to take action. And President Paul Biya gave in to the demands of President Maurice. You see, Southern Cameroonians, France does not have our interests. It's as simple as that. France has the interests of France, and in making sure that Cameroon does not separate from Southern Cameroon. But we must separate from Southern Cameroon. And in order for us to do that, it must be by gun and diplomacy. As much effort that must be done through diplomacy, we must also put the effort to making sure that our soldiers, the Southern Cameroon soldiers, military forces, ADF, all those groups who are fighting on the ground should be well armed to the teeth. Because the president of France can openly speak about releasing Maurice, making sure that Maurice should be released, but they cannot do that to our 10 leaders. Because if the president of France does that to our president, then, or our leaders who are in jail, then France will be supporting our separation from La Republic of Cameroon, which is not the case. So Southern Cameroonians, we have more work to do. France doesn't want us to be free. France is using Maurice Kamto to make sure that we stay with La Republic of Cameroon. But Maurice Kamto doesn't have the interests of Southern Cameroon. And the president of France doesn't have the interests of Southern Cameroon. So the people of Southern Cameroon must have the interests of Southern Cameroon. And we must stop fighting among each other about who is right and who is wrong. There are two things in order to free Southern Cameroon: guns and diplomacy. We must arm ourselves to the teeth into making sure that if diplomacy fails, guns, AK-47, would not fail. That is just the absolute truth. Either one could fail, but we have to make sure that if one fails, the other one doesn't fail. Diplomacy and military is the key to the survival of Southern Cameroon. This is King H. Till next time.